Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to head up to Norway once again, and we're going to return to a brewery that has featured on the channel many times before, but it's been a good few months actually since I've had a beer from them. It's been too long basically. I love the beers that these guys do, so nice to return to them after a period of about 7-8 months I think it is. So for this one then we're going to head to Stavanger and we're having a look at another beer from Lervig Aktiebryggeri. So this particular beer is called Bad Haircut. It comes in at 7.5% ABV, and Lervig are describing this one as a double dry hop double IPA. So it's 7.5%. It is quite a low alcohol double IPA, but I've heard that this beer is pretty damn nice actually. But yeah, really nicely presented. This one, very curious to see what it has in store for us, and as I said, nice to return to Lervig once again after quite a little while. This beer was released on the 2nd of February 2021 through the Tillfällig Sortiment in Systembolaget, and like I say, I bought this one just because I hadn't had anything from Lervig in quite some time actually. I want to get a few more Norwegian beers reviewed on the channel over the course of this year, but to do that I think I need to find a Norwegian beer mule. I know that there's a really good brewery at the moment called Sallikat, and I need to see if I can get a hold of some of their beers, so I'll see if I can get some of those in Copenhagen the next time I go across there. But in the meantime, we've got this one to review from Lervig, and I always enjoy the beers that I have from these guys, so fingers crossed this is a good one, and I hope that you guys enjoy my take on this beer as well then. So let's go for it. So as always with my reviews, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the video description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Lervig Aktiebryggeri before, and you will no doubt see more added to that list in the fairly near future. There's all the usual social media down there. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel of course has a geography based tagging system, so you can go into the homepage and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, province, prefecture, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlists of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the Norwegian beers that I've reviewed for you. That's being added to fairly regularly because we do get a decent kind of steady stream of Norwegian beers down here, but not as many as I would like, as I mentioned earlier. But as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. If you are interested in being my Norwegian beer mule, whereby I send you some money, you sort out a beer box to send down to me, that would be awesome. Just message me through the Instagram or the Facebook page and we can set that up. That would be awesome to have a Norwegian beer mule to get some of the more unusual and quirky things. But yeah, anyway, on to the brewery history then, to tell you a little bit about Lervig Aktiebryggeri. On to the brewery notes. So Lervig Aktiebryggeri, as I've mentioned to you already, are based in Stavanger, always forget how to pronounce that, in Stavanger in southwestern Norway. But the company was founded way back in 2003, so they're nearly 20 years old, but they were founded after the Toll brewery was sold to Carlsberg, and then subsequently production was moved to Oslo. But for a while the Lervig Aktiebryggeri beers were brewed at Mouthfeel Brewery in Tromsø, which is way up in the north of Norway, but production was moved to Hillevåg in Stavanger back in 2005. But the head brewer for Lervig is Mike Murphy, who is very well respected in the industry, and he's been with the company since 2010. But prior to this, the brewery were making many kind of light lager beers, but then when Mike came in, he moved them towards making the more American style craft beers. But apparently he played quite an important role in the Danish craft beer revolution, and he's worked with very many kind of renowned brewers such as Mikael and Jeppe Bjergso of Mikkeller and Evil Twin respectively, Sean Hill now of Hill Farmstead in Vermont over in the States, and also Andreas Kiesmeyer, who is a very well respected Danish brewery. He was with Nørrebro Bryghus, and now he has his own company if I remember rightly. But Mike worked for Birra del Borgo down in Italy for a while, and he now owns 5% of Lervig Aktiebryggeri, so I think he is there for the long haul. But the CEO of the Lervig Aktiebryggeri company is Anders Kleistrup, and the main owner of the brewery was originally Christopher Stensrud, who owned 67% of the shares, but in 2018 Orkita Capital, who also own part of Mikkeller, they bought a 50% share of the company, and they're going to help them to expand and get their beers out there in the world a little bit over the next while. But they're apparently hoping to open up a new facility called Ulhalene in Stavanger at some point quite soon, and like I say, hopefully I can get up to Stavanger and have a little look at that. I would love to go and explore Norway a little bit more. I've only seen Oslo, really, to be honest, so I would love to go up to Norway and have a little explore up there, but you know, it's quite an expensive place to go, so yeah, we'll see about that. I need to maybe put a little bit of money away for that at some stage, but many other places to explore, I think, before we make it up to Norway. But apparently at the moment these guys export around 1/3 of all of their beer, and the brewery now apparently exports around 17% of all Norwegian exported beer, which is pretty impressive. But as of January 2021, when I'm reviewing this beer for you, these guys have produced in the region of, or I should say February 2021, not January 2021, these guys have produced in the region of 175 different kinds of beer. So they are a pretty prolific brewery. And you know, you'll get some really, really good beers from these guys. Supersonic IPA is really nice. The Conrad Stout is great. I'm trying to think what else I've had from these guys over the years. But yeah, there's some really, really good Lervig beers out there. And they're always putting out kind of experimental things like this as well. But yeah, that's all I can really tell you about Lervig Aktiebryggeri for the moment. As I say, I hope that I can review more of their beers over the next little while. I wish that there was a Norwegian web shop that you could order all of these beers from. That would be pretty cool, actually. But you never know, maybe Glassbanken might actually start delivering into Norway as well and stocking a few more Norwegian beers. I would love to see that. But yeah, as I say, really nice brewery, these guys, and probably one of the best known Norwegian breweries these days, along with the likes of you know, Servicium and Amundsen, actually. But yeah, there's lots of really good breweries up there these days. Is it Lindheim? I forget exactly. The sour beer brewery on the farm. You also have you know, Ecotage, you've got Salicat, you know, you've got Mouthfeel, Handbryggeriet. You know, there's some really great breweries up there in Norway that I would recommend you check out if you get the chance. I wish I could review more of their stuff, actually. But yeah, that's all I can really tell you about Lervig for the moment. And as I say, if you want to learn more, you can check out the brewery website, you can follow them on Facebook and Instagram, and you can check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn more about all those different beers that they've done. So yeah, let's get on and actually have a taste of this one itself then. So as you can see, the artwork on this one, as you'll typically get from, as you'll typically find from Lervig Aktiebryggeri, is quite inventive, I have to say. I do like how the artwork on this one kind of goes together. But there you can see, bad haircut on the back, waiting for the jibes from, oh, nearly dropped that, waiting for the jibes from certain people on BeerTube for that, but we'll see. But yeah, Lervig, as you can see, they've got the nice star, this is their symbol. But yeah, 330ml can, this one. I honestly can't remember what I paid for this. I think this was about 35 or maybe 40 Swedish krona, because it is a Norwegian import, so you know, Norway is more expensive than Sweden is. So I think I paid about 40 Swedish krona for this, but a 330ml can, 40 Swedish krona roughly equates to about £3.25, £3.30, something like that in sterling, about €4 roughly, and then maybe about $4.50 American for those of you watching in different places. So yeah, Norwegian beers, Scandinavian beers generally, for people that are not living and working here, are a little bit more expensive because of the labour costs and the currency strengths and things like this. But you know, if you want Scandinavian beer, it is good, but you just have to deal with that slightly higher price. But although in fairness, in Sweden, Systembolaget really keeps the price down of a lot of the craft beers, and I would guess that it's the same. I know it's the same in the likes of Norway and Iceland and things like that. But yeah, there we go. So yeah, as you can see, very, very nice looking beer, this one. My hands are very cold today, I don't know what's going on here. But yeah, as you can see, and as you would expect from this one, being a kind of modern IPA, this one's poured a lovely, very rich kind of yellow colour. You can see there's a solid, maybe 2/3 finger of a frothy, I would say cream coloured head. That's not a perfect white head, I don't think. That's going to fade away fairly quickly to be a very sort of thin foamy layer, I would think, but it will leave quite an impressive ring around the edge of the glass. One or two big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass, a few little ones going up towards the bottom of the head there, and I think overall it does look pretty nice. If we shine the light through this, it's definitely not the haziest of beers that you're going to come across, and it says in here the ingredients in this one, it actually might well not be a New England IPA, because it just says barley, hops and yeast, so I think this one is a barley malt beer. This one might well be a little bit more of a kind of West Coaster, to be honest with you, which is quite interesting. But I forgot to mention that this beer is hopped with Idaho 7, which we know quite well. Lots of lovely kind of soft tropical fruits in there, about 14% alpha, so a lovely American hop. And it's also got HBC 431, which I thought had already been named. I thought this was either Talus or Strata, but apparently not. So to tell you a little bit about HBC 431, American hop, You know, the hop breeding company, hence HBC, but it gives you between 14 and 60% alpha acid, gives you sort of peaches, berries, and apparently a lot of tropical fruits, but the green component in this is apparently quite earthy and quite herbal as well, actually. I'm not sure if this is my first encounter with HBC 431, but it could make for an interesting one, actually. So yeah, I'm very curious to see what it has in store. But like I say, this beer, very rich yellow colour, this one. I think it looks very, very nice, and I'm just curious to see whether this beer is more of a West Coaster, because when you look at it, it really has a little bit more of that kind of natural haze to it than the sort of oaty, wheaty haze that you get from a New England. So yeah, nothing overly surprising about this beer when you consider that it's an IPA. But yeah, let's have a little look at this one then. Nice appearance to it. So let's take a closer look at the aroma and just see how we get on then. Ooh, now that's interesting. First thing you're going to notice about this beer, very, very smooth. It comes across really smooth, but it's got a big oily fruity character to it. That's nice. That is very, very nice. Yeah, I'll tell you something. That sort of berry note that they're talking about from HBC 4031, you've got that in abundance there, but at the same time you're getting a lot of these very soft fruity notes from the... You're getting a lot of these lovely big oily soft fruity notes that you would expect of the Idaho 7 as well. These two hops go together really, really well. You know, I'm wondering if it's the... you know, you can use the cryo hops, which if I remember rightly are the oils, the hop oils that they put into these things. And I'm wondering if it's that, because it really does smell like the oil. You don't get so much in the way of the green component, I don't think. There's a little bit of it, but the aroma of the hops in this beer is mainly more oily and fruity rather than anything else. And it's dry hop, but it says it's double dry hopped, and I think you've really got to use pellets to do dry hopping actually. So that's an interesting point to make about this one as well, actually. But that's a lovely smelling beer actually. You definitely get the big herbal notes out of the HBC 431 as well, but we'll come back to the hops in a little bit. Let's focus on the malty side of the beer first, just because that's what I always do. Let's do that. So yeah, for me, this beer has a little bit of everything in the malt base. I mean, I would say it leans towards the oaty side of things, almost, even though it doesn't have oats in it. It smells like very oaty and smooth in that way. It almost just has that really kind of oaty smoothness to it, which, as I say, there's no oats listed on this, but if I was blind smelling this, I would think that this beer was like an oat-based IPA for sure, because the smoothness in this is just ridiculous, to be quite honest with you. There's a lovely, very soft, smooth, white bready, oaty component to this beer, and it's just so unusual actually. And I mean, if you take the aroma in quite deeply, it almost gives you a little bit of wheaty bitiness as well. And I don't know if this is maybe, you know, placebo effect or something like this, because this is what we're used to finding in IPAs these days. But it really does have, if you smell the aroma of this, it really, to me, if I was blind smelling that without knowing what it was, I would think this would be a very oaty leaning New England IPA. So yeah, I have no idea how the malt base in this one is going to turn out, but yeah, definitely a sort of white bready base to it. It comes across as very slick and almost like lactosey or oat-like. It's almost got a little bit of that kind of milkshakey sort of thing, but it doesn't smell yogurty like some of the kind of milkshake IPAs do. So this is just one that really strikes me. I have no idea how this one's going to turn out, but it should be quite interesting in that sense. So yeah, a little bit of a kind of sweet. There is a little bit of brown sugary note from this one, definitely a bit of sweet caramel there, a little bit of a kind of biscuity quality I would say. But yeah, the aroma coming out of this beer I think is pretty damn special actually. So yeah, I think this is definitely one that you need to spend a little bit of time and just ponder the aroma over. As I say, it comes across as like very smooth and oaty, almost lactosey in a way. There's some white bread underneath. You do get a little bit of an almost bitey, wheaty quality of this one, but like I say, no oats and wheat in this beer. That's almost like placebo effect. And then you've got a kind of, you do have a bit of brown sugar in there, a bit of butter candy, Werther's Original sort of thing, and maybe a little bit of McVitie's Digestive Biscuit. The malt base has really got me thinking with this beer, I have to say, because it is an all barley malt base. So yeah, craziness. But yeah, on the green side of things, so you do get a little bit of earthiness out of this. You do get that big kind of herbal component from the HBC 431, but at the same time, when your nose adjusts to this beer a little bit more, you get some nice floral aromaticity out of it, and you also get a good bit of grassiness. in there as well. So yeah, the green component leans towards the HBC 431, I think. But when I think of you know, when I think about Idaho 7, I always remember it having quite a soft green component as well, to be honest with you. So that is another interesting perspective to think about with this beer. It is interesting in that sense. So yeah, I don't know what to make of this one in a lot of ways. But yeah, on the fruity side of things then, let's have a little look at this. So you do get these lovely big soft, there's a wee bit of passion fruit in there, you know, there's the mangoes, the apricots and stuff like this. You've got some really nice big fruity, like tropical fruity components to this one. The fruits come across as a little bit almost dried and a little bit kind of boozy in a sense, but you get that, I don't get so much of the peaches out of this one. It did say that HBC 431 is supposed to give you peaches, but it does have a really lovely kind of juicy, like red curranty, you know, red berry sort of component to it, this beer. You really notice that at the front of the nose. It's got a lovely big juicy red fruity kind of quality to it, and I think that suits it very, very well. So yeah, the fruity side of this beer, I think, is absolutely lovely, so it gets a big thumbs up from me. Yeah, the fruity side of this beer is just pretty special, I think. You know, so it's got a lovely big juicy note to it. You get a little bit of sharpness almost actually from the HBC 431 in this, but I think it works really well with everything else that's coming out in this beer. So it gets a big thumbs up from me in that sense. I think there's a lot of interesting stuff going on in this beer for sure. So definitely take a little bit of time and just ponder the aroma over on this one. It's quite unusual in a lot of ways, especially the fact that it has that almost oat lactosey-like component and slightly wheaty note to it, even though it's an all barley malt base. So yeah, this is really, I think this is going to be a quirky one. So yeah, take a bit of time to enjoy the aroma of that beer, like I say, but we're going to taste this one now. So this one is the Bad Haircut, a double dry hopped, double IPA at 7.5% ABV from the Lervig Aktiebryggeri in Stavanger in southwestern Norway. Awesome to have more Norwegian beers here on the channel. Slange, skål, cheers. Yeah, that's really very, very nice. First impression of this one, it's just a big, oily, very, very smooth IPA. That it gets a thumbs up from me, absolutely. I really want to get a few more different beers from Lervig. I wish you could order you know, some of these just direct from the brewery. I'd love to order just a box of maybe like 10 or so Lervigs and just, you know, film them all, put them out gradually over a couple of months or whatever. And yeah, I think these guys do have something pretty interesting, I have to say. So yeah, this is a lovely, lovely beer. So big thumbs up to Lervig Aktiebryggeri for this one. Awesome beer. Does it quite top Supersonic? Not sure about that. Supersonic is a pretty special IPA, but is this one very nice and very well done? Absolutely. So yeah, where to start with this one then? Let's focus on the malt base. We'll just take it as we always do. So what I would say about the malt base in this one is it definitely comes across as more kind of barley malt and sort of grainy like compared to what the aroma gives you the impression of. So straight away in this beer, there's a nice kind of pale malty quality. You can feel that just kind of forming the backbone of the beer. You've got a soft sort of white bready component there just sitting in the middle of the tongue, and that forms the backbone of the beer in the middle third of your palate. But as you go further back, you can feel there's a little bit of a more kind of bread crusty quality. There's a little bit more of a kind of bread crusty quality in that border region between middle third and back third of your palate. But then as you go into the back third of your palate, you can feel the sort of breadiness of the beer just thickens up a little bit, and you get more of a kind of grainy and sort of bitey character to it. The beer actually does give the impression that it has a little bit of wheat in it. It really does give the impression that there's a little bit of that in there. So if I was blind tasting this again, I would think, I'd be a bit confused I think by the middle third of your palate, but I would think there was a bit of wheat in this beer for sure. But yeah, let's start from the back of the palate then and just work our way forward. But the thing you're going to notice about this beer overall is that it's just incredibly soft and almost silky. and slick in a lot of ways. The mouthfeel of this is very unusual, but I like it. I really do like it. So yeah, in the back third of your palate, as I say, you've got a nice little bit of, you do have a nice bit of a kind of slightly bitey, almost wheaty like quality, but as you move further forward you get more kind of grainy bready notes, and as you reach the kind of border region between middle third and back third of your palate, it drops away a little bit. The thickness of the beer just drops away a little bit, and then you've got that kind of softer bready quality in the middle third of your palate. In the middle third, in the very centre of your tongue, you've got a nice kind of oily quality to the beer. I think it's not caramelly. It's almost a little bit like a kind of, it is a little bit like a kind of Werther's Original sort of butter candy type thing, but not quite as sweet and not quite as smooth as that. It's just not quite as creamy, to be honest. It's the brown sugary components and the sweet side of this beer for me is quite unusual, I have to say. I find it very, very unusual in this beer for sure. So yeah, you've got a lovely, just oily vibe about this beer, which I think works very, very well for it in a lot of ways. How do we even, how do we even describe that? It's because it's a little bit more kind of boozy. It gives you a kind of alcohol type flavour out of it. It's more of a kind of boozy, alcoholic-y type flavour that you get out of the middle part of your palate here. So yeah, that again is a really kind of unusual thing to think about with this beer. It is very just smooth and just boozy in a sense. There's a wee bit of sweet caramel, a wee bit, but quite a lot of Werther's Original quality for me, but not quite, not quite as kind of sweet if that makes sense. And yeah, it's just it's a highly unusual beer, this, in a lot of different ways. The smoothness that you get out of this for an all barley malt base is quite quirky as well, actually. But thumbs up to Lervig for this. They've pulled this off really nicely. Yeah, on the hoppy side of things then, let's focus on the hoppy side of the beer. I don't think there's too much more to say on the malt base of this one. In the back corners of the palate there's definitely a little bit of earthiness there. As you move further forward from that, it's a little bit herbal, and as you reach the kind of front corners of the palate, it's definitely got a bit more of a kind of floral, aromatic type quality to it. So that's really interesting as well, to be honest with you. So yeah, the floral aromatic quality there, it builds up, but this beer is by no means bitter at all. This is a very, very smooth and very low bitterness IPA in a lot of ways. It's just really quirky, but yeah, you get more of a floral quality as you reach the kind of front corners of the palate there, but then as you go round the very front curve of the tongue, the beer is a little bit lighter and more grassy for sure. There's a lot of really kind of interesting notes in this beer. So yeah, I like how that goes together. But yeah, on the kind of front third of your palate, there's a nice kind of oily bubble there, and that's where you get all these juicy fruity esters just rolling their way out of the beer. So yeah, if you go towards the back of that front third of your palate, if you go to that border region between middle third and front third of your palate, there's a very nice how would you say, sort of bready, grainy quality to this one, a little bit more kind of bread crusty. But then as you move, if you move in front of that, it's got a little bit of a kind of stronger passion fruity note to it. It does have a wee bit of a sort of passion fruity vibe to it, and that kind of fades away. It's the Idaho 7. The back half of the front third of your tongue there is the Idaho 7 all the way. It's those soft tropical fruity notes that you would associate with Idaho 7. So yeah, there's a bit of passion fruit there, but that fades away very quickly and becomes a slightly more pungent mango sort of thing. Then you start to get a few, apricot-y and kind of other tropical fruit flavours in this one. I do get a wee bit of peach out of the beer, actually, come to think of it, in the flavour. I almost want to say there's a wee bit of melon or something in here as well. There's a wee vibe that makes, I might actually wonder, if I was blind tasting this beer without knowing the hops, I might wonder if there was a bit of cashmere in this as well. Because it does have a little bit of that almost melony quality that cashmere has, which is interesting. But yeah, as you reach the kind of front half of that front third of your palate, the beer gets quite interesting. You get a little bit of an almost kind of gooseberry aroma, flavour rather, just on that front third of your palate, but then on top of that you start to get these, you start to get the kind of red fruity components, so it's like gooseberries and like red currants and red berries and stuff that come out of this beer. It's really quirky and really unusual, I have to say. yeah, fruity side of this beer, I really like actually. There's a lot of really just nice qualities to that, and I think as you go further into the aftertaste, more and more of those red fruity notes come out, but that sort of gooseberry note kind of lingers there, a bit of the melons there, and then you've got those kind of dried tropical fruits sitting in behind them as well. So it's a really unusual beer, this one. I have to say, this is one that's made me think a little bit, and after 2,600, nearly 2,700 beers now, I do like beers that make you think a little bit. So thumbs up to Lervig Aktiebryggeri for pulling this one off. I think they've done an awesome job with this beer. So yeah, I think this is pretty damn cool actually. So yeah, let's leave it at that for the tasting section. I think there's not much more to say about the flavour of this beer, but overall this is a lovely, smooth and very, very slick IPA in my mind. I really like this one, very much enjoyed it. But yeah, in terms of the mouthfeel then, don't know what I've done there, but yeah, in terms of the mouthfeel, I would say this is it's kind of at the bottom end of full body. The carbonation is very smooth. It's a very slick and but still very oily IPA in my mind. So very, very unusual. I think that's a fair statement to make about this one, is that it's just a very, very unusual IPA this. In terms of hoppy bitterness and things, there's not a lot. I would be surprised if this beer's 20 IBUs, to be honest with you. Does it have a canned on date? It says best before the 11th of the 9th, 2021. And I'm wondering, it says the 11th of the 12th, 20, so maybe it's been canned on the 11th of December, 2020. So yeah, I'm not sure about that. So this beer has been in the can maybe about 6 weeks or so. So maybe it might have been a little bit more bitter earlier on. I don't know. But as it stands, it turned out to be very, very nice, to be honest with you. I really like the state that this beer's in just now. But yeah, quite low bitterness. I'd be surprised. It's about Hefeweizen level bitterness, this beer, to be quite honest with you. So lovely, big, smooth beer. I would say this one. It's just really nicely executed. So thumbs up to Lervig for that. But the malt base is very smooth, a little bit of an oily component to it, and you've got some lovely big kind of oily fruity characters as well. So yeah, 7.5% double dry hopped double IPA, a lower alcohol double IPA, right enough, pretty much on the border region of what you could consider a double IPA in my mind, but a beautifully executed beer from Lervig. So yeah, nice to feature these guys here on the channel once again, and I hope that you guys enjoyed my take on this beer. Let's leave it at that for this one. Just really nice, oily, very, very slick IPA in my mind. It's hard to say what style exactly this one is, but whatever it is, it's nice, and that's the main thing. So yeah, once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Lervig Aktiebryggeri. We will return to these guys at some point fairly soon, of that I have no doubt. But in the meantime, let me know some other Lervig beers that I should check out. I'll see about getting a hold of those, and do let me know some other Norwegian beers and breweries that you guys would like to check me out as well. If there's anyone who wants to be my Norwegian beer mule, please do get in touch. I would love to have more Norwegian beers on the channel. But in the meantime, thank you for watching. Check out my social media, check out Lervig Aktiebryggeri, and I will catch you guys very, very soon. Stavanger, skål, cheers. The bad haircut from Lervig Aktiebryggeri in Stavanger in southwestern Norway. Cheers.